welcome back to the Training Model Podcast. This is the first episode of many to come. Obviously, I've taken a pretty big break from basically everything related to work. A couple of things have happened, which we'll be chatting about today. Obviously, the biggest change is I've closed Melbourne Strength Culture, and it's probably something that I want to do like a formal episode on it. Maybe wrap it up in like some of the key lessons and stuff that I've learnt. A few people asked me questions in the Q&A box that I put up this week, just on Instagram as I return to making content. So I'll definitely touch on some of those questions because I said that I would in this episode. But I do plan on doing like a formal episode, just a discussion really, and pretty soon, probably within the first month. Just discussing some of the key lessons that I've learned, both positives and negatives, from running a gym for 10 years or 9.5 years. I'm calling it 10. Little round up. Everyone does a little bit of rounding here or there. I'm rounding it up to 10 years, but I will do a formal podcast on the decisions and all of that, but I'll touch on some of it today and start to get into it a little bit. But before I get into anything related to this episode, I just want to say thank you to everybody that did support the gym, the community, the staff, any members out there that are listening to this. Like what we were able to achieve with Melbourne Strength Culture was truly special. And it was only possible because of the people that trusted us, the members, the clients, the interns, past and present members, just people that impacted our community throughout the entire journey. So yeah, I'm so thankful for that chapter of my life. But in saying that, I am also so thankful that I made that decision to close it and to move on. Because for a number of years, I have felt this underlying just anxiety and dread around work. And I've gone through phases, and I think I've discussed a lot of this stuff on this podcast previously, but I've gone through phases where I've even considered, like, is this industry what I want to be in, or is this where I'm best served and where I can have an impact and like career growth and all of those sort of things. And I know in my heart that it is, because there's so many aspects of it that I love. And a lot of that has been bottled into what Training Model has slowly built to become over the last couple of years, although I haven't been able to put my full focus into it for obvious reasons, trying to run two separate businesses that share a lot of similarities, but ultimately pull my attention in two different directions, was challenging. And it just got to a point where ultimately I just had to roll the dice again, and I had to make a decision that I think is more in line with what I want to do long term. It is more in line with where my passions are. It's more in line with where my enjoyment, my vibe, my feeling, like I feel it. I actually feel it when I'm doing the things that I enjoy doing and I want to be doing. I just put more effort into it. I put more focus into it. I feel more positive at the end of it. I don't feel like I have these hurdles to get started with work surrounding it. Whereas a lot of the gym-based roles and responsibilities that I ended up just becoming as part of a gym owner, they would just fill me with anxiety. They would fill me with dread. They would fill me with this feeling of just flat. I would call it flat. There'd be days where I would sit in the car park and not want to come into the gym to do that work. There was a few evenings where, and again, this has happened for years. Ultimately, I know exactly when it started. It was towards the end of COVID. These feelings started coming up, and I've unpacked a lot of it with psychologists and working through certain things. And my initial couple of stints were like, no, I can just make the business work more in line with me and delegate more and move away from coaching and make all of these decisions to try to minimize these tasks and these responsibilities that I felt were pulling me back and pulling me down. And I was doing that over the last couple of years, and a lot of the push towards the big content pushes that we would do, and the growing the podcast and trying to grow the brand and trying to grow an apparel line and try to do all these other things were an attempt for me to find activities and find strategies that aligned with business growth of the gym that I would find interesting, and I would continue to build these little things up and do really well with them, but they would still eventually just turn back into this same feeling of dread. I'm going to keep using the word dread. And then 3 years ago, through the pregnancy of our first daughter, our first daughter, Laura, got really sick, and it forced me to kind of pull back a lot more than I had ever expected from work to just support Laura and to focus on arguably more important things in life at that point. And then obviously becoming a dad and then wanting to spend more time at home with my family and my daughter, and then falling pregnant for the second time. Throughout 2025, Laura got even more sick, and handling a toddler alongside trying to help and support Laura as best as I can. It just meant that I had to pull completely back, and ultimately it just, these feelings, these I don't know if I can describe it that well, but this underlying feeling just continued year on year, just getting amplified, and it got to the point last year where I didn't want to be here again. I just wanted to work from home, be at home. I became very lazy in terms of staff management and sort of the direction that we were heading with the gym, with the business, and started to impact relationships around work, which is not something that I ever wanted it to do. And it eventually just got to a point where it's like, why am I trying to force this when I know the things that are more in line with what I enjoy and where my passions are and what fills my cup, and why am I trying to fix something? It's not even fixed because it was never really broken, but like, why am I trying to force, that's probably a much better word, why am I trying to force this thing in a direction where I know deep inside me it's something that I just don't want to do anymore? I just fundamentally don't want to do anymore. It had nothing to do with money. It had nothing to do with anything else. Like I'm sure there were people out there, maybe it might just be a belief of myself with like, oh, the gym was failing or any of those sort of things. It wasn't. Like it was completely fine. We were running events. We had planned events for next year. The membership was strong. The community was great. All of these things were rolling, but me as the leader just didn't want to be a part of any of it. By the end of it, I just didn't want to be here. I didn't want to be part of it. I didn't want to be the figurehead of it. I just wanted to fade into the abyss and just work on training model. And it just got to the point where our second daughter, little Maddalena, named after my nonna, bringing that Italian in, a couple of months before she was born, which was in November, I just made the decision that I was done. I was going to wrap it up. I wanted to wrap it up by the end of the year. Put the wheels in process and went for it. And that's where we ended up. So yeah, like I've had so many an overwhelming response from the external community, not the members and stuff. They were supportive and I'm very thankful for that. But the response from the external community, the people that followed the content, followed the podcast, followed me on my journey, internationals, other states, everywhere, has been overwhelmingly positive, and I'm very thankful for that. People understand why my decisions were ultimately made, but yeah, it's just time to move on. It's time to roll the dice again. It's time to move in the direction that I know at a personal level I'm just significantly more interested in, and it fills my cup, and it's the things that I want to do more so, and I'm excited for that. I am nervous though. Like, I was meant to start back last week, and then Monday rolled around and I was like, oh, I don't think I'm ready yet. I think I need a couple more days. I did a little bit of work, was just speaking to some mentorship clients and some one-on-one clients that I deal with online and organize them. But then I was like, I don't think I'm ready to really step back into the content. The content is going to be a big thing for me. Like I've identified that as I'm viewing it as like the oxygen in the direction I'm heading, like a steam train. It needs oxygen, it needs fuel, it needs push. And the only way that I can do that is through consistent, regular content. So I wasn't ready to start making content yet. But then Monday rolled around this week and I was like, no one's here to save you. Like, you've made your decision, move on, start doing the things that you need to do. So I made a couple of posts this week and I forced myself to do a podcast this week because I want to get back into podcasts every single week, even if they're just 20-minute, just sort of recaps what's going on. Like I will be doing a podcast every single week. I don't know what days they'll be uploaded. Probably should set a schedule. Maybe the old Thursday 9:00 slot, like the old Strength Culture podcast. But I'm forcing myself to start the podcast as a non-negotiable this week and start the Instagram content. And then we'll see where we end up. But I'm excited. I am nervous. Obviously, it's a big change. But I know what I'm capable of when I'm doing the things that I really want to do. So I'm heading in that direction and I'm moving in that direction. I'm not really looking at the camera right now for those on YouTube because I've got my screen down here, but I need to be better with that. I'm a bit out of training with just talking to myself. But yeah, again, just want to say thank you to everybody that supported Strength Culture throughout the years. I will do a formal podcast on some of the key things and lessons that I've learned throughout 10 years of gym ownership and having a red hot crack at gym ownership, not just trying to run a gym, but really try to build a brand and have a big impact in a community, just not the immediate community, but the external community here in Australia. I will do a formal podcast about that, but today was kind of just to get the thing rolling, get things moving again, touch on a little bit of sort of why the decision was there. And I know I was actually just speaking to somebody that's in my applied mentorship, which is just an ongoing group mentorship that you can sign up to. The link's down below. It's $99 a month and you get 2 calls a week with me in a group setting. I just jumped off a call with a couple of coaches and having a good chat about sort of career direction with one of the coaches that's kind of struggling with similar feelings and trying to work through that. But it is something that a lot of people do feel. And as I've gotten older, just in general, not related to my career, but I've started to just see other people transition into new businesses and new jobs and new careers. And like Charlie went back and was studying teaching, his master's of teaching. Is that something that an itch that he's always wanted to scratch? And he was doing that last year and started that process. And it is very common for people to go through. And I think sometimes when you're in your little head and you're kind of battling the feelings and whether you're not similar to me, you're seeking help from psychologists to work through them or speaking to people around you. I think it does give you a little, not confidence, but it definitely makes me feel better about what I'm struggling with when I'm seeing other people making big decisions around me and making changes around me. So yeah, we were just chatting in that applied mentorship call about some of those things from a career perspective. So if you are feeling those sort of ways, you're not alone out there. And I've spoken to plenty of gym owners in the last 6 months since I made the decision and went public with it all. But I know there are a lot of people out there that this industry is tough. Like, it's fucking hard, no matter what level you're at. I think all industries are hard, but our industry's hard. I know. It can be tough. It's a very demanding sort of job sometimes, dealing with clients one-to-one, in person, face-to-face, and the emotional and relationship side of things as well. Like, it can be very challenging. So if you are feeling similar feelings, my DMs are open. I'm happy to chat always, because it's not a fun feeling being in the thick of it. And I feel so much better coming out of it now. And even just this week, I went back to the gym. That's another thing that we'll probably chat about, not today, but like even that, like it's so... It's hard for me to communicate what it felt like unless somebody owns the gym that they're working in. I think they're probably the only people that can really understand it. But having built this place and built the whole thing and built and put my heart and soul into this place for, again, these things started 3 or 4 years ago, but let's just say 7 years, but then feeling like this anxiety of being in the place that you built and not wanting to be there and not wanting to be around it and almost feeling like an external in the community. And again, this is not anybody has put me in this position. It was just this internal thing that I felt like I didn't even fit into my own gym. I have felt that for a number of years. Not wanting to be here and be around it, and trying to make myself as in the background as possible, and not working shifts and not coaching clients and not being part of it. Like, I feel so relieved with my decision. And part of that this week was just going back to another gym. I joined up a world gym around the corner in Bentley East, and just walked in and asked to speak to somebody that could help me, and took me through a tour. And I did my first session yesterday, and I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed being there. I enjoyed training. I enjoyed just hitting some weights with no expectation of what anyone was thinking about me, or having to chat with anyone, or do any of those things. Like, I was just at the gym. And it was a feeling that I haven't felt ultimately in years, like years. Obviously, it's only one session. I've got a long way to go. I'm a slob. My rig looks soupy. I love that definition. I don't know where I've picked it up from, but my rig just looks soupy. Like, there's a little bit of definition in there, but it's kind of just like, ugh, what's going on? So I'm keen to get fit again and just get healthy again and start undertaking that process. But like, even that was a big thing for me. Like I think part of the reason why I've just fallen out of love with training is because I was always just trying to train in the thing that I ultimately fundamentally just didn't want to be around anymore. And so that's another thing for me, like my health and my physical health. And these are all things that I'll definitely touch on. But I'm feeling really good. I feel scared. I feel nervous, taking a big risk, but I'll back myself in like I always have, and start moving in that direction again. So a couple of questions that did come through, which I will chat on, was advice for younger coaches or just people in general that are looking to start a gym. Like, what are some key things that I would recommend for those people? I'm so thankful that I did run the gym. I'm so glad that I had that chapter in my career. And if you're serious about wanting to run a gym, I would highly recommend grabbing it and going for it and pushing for it. A couple of pieces of advice that I will have for people that are looking to move in that direction. I think having help is really important, whether it's a younger coach that you can develop and mentor, and build up within your system of coaching. I think that's a really important thing. So if you are looking to build a gym, maybe having a couple of some conversations with people around you that potentially might want to undertake that with you. Not that they're in ownership with you, but are at least keen to maybe go through and build something alongside you, I think is really cool. And obviously young coaches that you can mentor are a fantastic place for that. I think that is something that that I would recommend moving in the direction of. Another thing that I would recommend is getting serious about finance and learning to manage finance and learning to manage money from a business perspective. Not just, this is my income and all of those sort of things, but really starting to understand like business structures and setups and companies and trusts and tax sort of implications, GST, profit, expenses, revenue. Like, having a very deep understanding of those things is something that I think a lot of people have anxiety around. And if you're looking to undertake growth in your business and you don't have those things understood, it is not something you should delegate to an accountant and just be like, they know what they're doing. We are in business to make money. You are in business to earn an income and to grow and develop your personal life. And the only way that you can do that with any decision around business is to have a deep understanding of those things. If you don't understand that stuff and you have the dreams of scaling and growing your business, it is a non-negotiable that it's something that you have to understand. It's not difficult to understand. You shouldn't be scared of learning finance and learning money, and how money actually works and how finance and the management of finance should be run. Because if you've got any anxiety around that stuff, just working for yourself, renting space somewhere, whatever you're doing currently, those feelings and those struggles will just get amplified tenfold when you step into a formal business of renting space and expenses and GSTs and different tax things and moving money and all of those sort of things. So I can't stress that enough. Finance is something that you really need to get a grasp on when you're thinking about growing a business and developing yourself and pushing yourself in any direction, whether you're owning a gym or starting a gym, or if you're just looking to scale and grow what you're currently doing. That is a non-negotiable for me. So having a good team around you would be number one. Learning finance and understanding finance would be number two. I think number three would be probably like the umbrella would just be marketing, but having a really good think about exactly the market that you want to sort of move into, the type of services you're going to be running, the type of clientele that you want to attract, because long-term business growth, I really do believe a lot of failure in business, a lot of struggle in business, a lot of stress in business ultimately just boils back down to the type of clients that you're attracting, the type of people that you're attracting, and all of that comes from marketing. Whether it's social media, whether it's referral based, whether it's paid ads or organic content or podcasting or whatever, it doesn't. The vessel doesn't matter as much as what you're offering to the marketplace, the type of people that you're trying to attract, how you're doing that, building systems around that. So there would be, I think that would be another thing that I would definitely recommend for somebody that's looking to start a gym, is to just get really, really specific on who those people are and what hole you're trying to fill for individuals that are looking for your service. Massively. And it just gets, at least my experience, with the businesses that I've run, it just gets more and more important the longer you get in, the longer you're in business, is how are you attracting people and who are those people that you're attracting. So that would be another thing. If you're not serious about marketing and whatever that means to you, but where your clients are coming from and who they are and how you're helping them and the services that you're providing, if that's not dialed in, I think you're going to run into some struggle street with growing a physical location, a physical gym. There's many ways to go about marketing. It's not just social media content. There's so many ways to go about it, but being serious about those things, I think, is important. So that's some advice. I'll probably have more as I roll through and think about like a formal episode of what I learned from running the gym, but definitely some of those things are in there for sure. The next one came through was related to how we built the community at Strength Culture, and how we had success with that. And I thought about this, but I don't actually think I have any like specifics that I think could be help people. I think just being good people helps. Having the staff that I had helps, but ultimately it's not just that they were good staff, it was just that they were good people. All of them, everybody that worked at Strength Culture was just a fantastic person that I would want to hang out with, and I did hang out with, and I will continue to hang out with. Like just being a good person, being nice, listening to people, engaging with people. I think that stuff can't be understated. And then I think the other thing would be actually trying to set things up in a way that allows people to interact. Like we ran a semi-private model here, so everybody was kind of forced to just meet people and all of that. But even if you're running like one-on-one type service currently and you're like trying to build a community, is like setting things up in a way that allows people to actually meet each other and engage. And that might mean that you have to forcefully put things in place to allow that to happen, but it might also just mean that you introduce people at the gym to each other, and people that have similar goals, put them in a group chat together and set goals together and move towards sort of training goals together. I think that's really important. I think a lot of our community stemmed initially from like the powerlifting world and our teams that we would push around and take to different gyms and put events on and all of that. Like getting people together and moving them in a direction together always helps. Like when you look at High Rocks, I think that's probably one of the reasons why that is so successful, is that everybody's working towards an event. Like, can you set up events within your gym community that people train and move in the direction of? I think you can't lean into that stuff enough. But for us, community was never something that we forced. It was never like, when it was just something that I think just stemmed from us as people and just the type of people that we were. So yeah, again, I thought about this for 24 hours and I didn't really have too much. But if I think of something else that drives along with that, I'll definitely chat about it more in the podcast and on socials. But yeah, so that was that one. I had a couple people ask if I was open to being on external podcasts, and I definitely am. But I told them, and I'll tell everyone, just give me probably 4 to 6 weeks to just get myself rolling again, get my podcast rolling again. Probably have the chats in the way that I want to have the chats first, and then I'm definitely open to jumping on as many podcasts and fitting as many in as I can. So I'm definitely open to that. So if you do have a podcast, maybe send me a DM or put it in your diary to reach out at probably mid-Feb, and we can start to find some times, because I'm definitely keen to get into that for sure. I had a question related to the equipment, and I'm going to shout out Brady Deaton here. Brady is he's probably been the most involved with training model out of everyone. He did one of the earliest movement mentorships. He actually came down here from he lives I've gone blank. Goulburn. He lives up in Goulburn. He came down here for a little assessment day that I did here for the Applied Mentorship members. I had about 10 people come to that, which was awesome. He came down for that. He does one-on-one mentoring with me. He's growing his own little space in Goulburn. He wants to take over. He wants to be the guy in Goulburn, and I definitely reckon he can be. But he was jokingly saying, like, who bought all the equipment? Shouts out to Brady Deaton, because he bought a large chunk of the equipment from the gym. But everything's gone. I think I have a weight tree left, a couple of barbells. Actually, I've still got the deadlift platform. If anyone wants the powerlifting platform, I think it's 2.5 by 2. I think it's 2.5 meters by 2.5 meters. It has to be moved very specifically. So if you don't have a very large trailer or a truck or something, it's going to be very difficult to move without it snapping. But if you do want the platform, you can just message me and we can set up a time and you can take the platform. But all the equipment's gone. It got sold very quickly, which was awesome, and it's all moved out. The space is completely empty. That was another question. What am I doing with the space? So I actually own the building. So I'm just looking for a tenant. It's up on the market now, and I'll be using my office here, which is the old podcast studio where my desk and everything's set up. I'll be using this space until it gets leased out. I'm expecting it might take a little bit of time, but right now I'm just going to be using this space, and then I'll probably look to either try to find an office somewhere that I can work from, or probably just work from home for a little bit. I don't want to be working from home long term, though. I do want my own space that I can go to and just get deep work done. But right now, I'm just waiting for a tenant. Hopefully it doesn't take too long, but that was part of my decision as well. Circling back to some of those initial thoughts was, For 3 years, I've been thinking if my lease was to come up and I'd have to re-sign a new lease, I wouldn't sign it again. I've been thinking that for 3 years because I own the building. So I pay myself rent, and the business pays the rent and all of that sort of stuff. And if the only reason that I'm staying in business or staying in the gym business was to keep the rent going, what am I doing? Like, why is that such a key thing for me? Like, at some point, I need to roll the dice on an investment that I've made, which is a warehouse in Moorabbin, a great space, but a warehouse in Moorabbin, and just move on. Like, if that's the only reason that I'm holding this gym open, like, what am I doing? And again, I've been toying with that for years. So I do own the space. So I'm just waiting for a new tenant. Hopefully it doesn't take too long, but part of my calculations was in just continuing to lease it as a one-man band and working it out when the money runs out, which hopefully we don't get to that point. But that was another question that came through. So yeah, if you need a 550 square meter facility in Moorabbin, reach out. I've got a perfect space for you. The other question that came through was related to like isometrics. I don't know why. Every now and then just something pops up. It's always Angus Bradley is the fucking figurehead of it, but all of a sudden everyone's asking me about isometrics. We can chat about isometrics at another point. We had a good chat in one of the Applied Mentorship calls this week about isometrics and some of my thoughts about that. That's been uploaded to the Applied Mentorship as a replay, but I'll get into isometrics at some point. Maybe next week we can start chatting about actual formal coaching and programming discussions. But right now I'm not going to chat about isometrics. And then a couple other, they weren't so much questions, but DMs that I got was related to just like what's next. And I guess this would be a perfect place to sort of wrap up this initial podcast, which is kind of just an intro back into the Training Model podcast and lighting a fire up myself to get back into content. But what is the focus? What is the plan then? Obviously, it's training model. That's what I want to do. I've known it for a few years now that it's what fills my cup up and where I feel most myself, most energized around. It is ultimately just, I would put it under the banner of mentoring. It's education. That's what I want to do. And part of that is a whole bunch of different little things, but for the most part, it's just having as big an impact as I can around Australia. But I do believe that I can get to a world stage, an international level educator. If I just have an uninterrupted road in front of me, which I really do believe that I have that now. I've closed the business. We're not having any more kids because of the struggles that Laura went through both of those. And we've made that decision. We're just going to have two. And I'm very happy and thankful for that. But I feel like I'm through that chapter of my life where these huge, big interruptions were possible. And I'm keen now to just have single focus on just being the best educator and mentor that I can be in the space. So that is ultimately what it is, and it's going to be under the banner of training model. But part of that is going to be obviously my mentoring services, so one-on-one mentoring. I've got my books open for that. I've got 5 one-on-one mentoring coaches currently, but I'm looking to expand that. So if you are interested in working with me at a one-on-one level, it's significantly more personalized. It can be for coaching, systems development, and principle development, or it can also be for business and business development. I'm available for both of those, and they both fall under the one-on-one mentoring stuff. That is available. The second part of the mentoring service is going to be my applied mentorship, which is just ongoing group mentorship, which is kind of like the central hub of training model. So that's where all my private content gets posted. It's where we have those 2 group calls per week. And it's only 99 Aussie dollars a month. It's incredible value. Currently, it's completely open. You can just jump in and jump out whenever you want. Once I get up over probably 50 students in there or coaches in there, I think I'm probably going to go to like an entry form, not an entry form, but maybe like intakes for it, so I can be a little bit more hands-on with the new people coming in. But right now it is just open. So even if you just want to suss out what's in there, you can jump through the applied mentorship, $99 a month, very cheap, no lock-ins. You can just jump in, have a suss, jump out, 2 calls per week. There's probably like 50 or 60 hours worth of content in there. I've reproduced 2 of my foundations courses that are in there, which is my movement model and my programming model. So that's where I recommend people start when they jump in. Just choose whichever one is more of interest to you and jump into that first and work through that, and then come to the calls and start getting involved with those sort of things. But the applied mentorship is the second part of my mentoring banner. And then the third part is going to be my courses. Right now, I'm just going to be pushing my online courses. So the movement mentorship is obviously the staple that will be there. The next intake is open. I've done no marketing for it, so I've only got 2 people in there currently. Hopefully we can get that up to about 10 before the start date, which is basically the 27th of Feb, I believe. But the content starts dripping out from the 9th of February, so I need to get serious about that. But my courses is the third part to that. So the movement mentorship will be the staple, but then I'll also be running a programming mentorship as well. Which will be both online. That's going to be the central part of the things that I'm focusing on. Around those services, though, I have a fantastic opportunity up at a private facility, private gyms up in New South Wales that I have jumped in on. I've signed the contracts for, and I'm getting started with that. So I'm very excited for that. I'm not going to talk about that publicly just yet, but that means that I'm going to be in Sydney at least, it looks like 4 times this year with those commitments, which means I can do some in-person stuff up in Sydney, and that's probably where I'm going to start before I find a facility down here in Melbourne that I can run some workshops and stuff out of. But that will be a separate part. It won't be something that I'm publicly talking about, these private things. But if you do own a facility, I want to hit the allied health space. I'm going to set up a 1-day course just for allied health, or 1-day workshop, seminar, whatever you want it to call, just for allied health. And I'm going to see if I can tap into that market a little bit, because I think I do have a very unique skill set that can help allied health people at a very deep level. So that is another thing that I want to work in and move in the direction of. It's not going to be a primary goal, but definitely within the first probably 3 to 6 months, I want to have that set up and start rolling. And then those private workshops with hopefully some bigger chained gyms, some bigger teams would be something that I'm open to. So if you do own a facility, if you do own a gym, if you do have staff underneath you and you want me to come and have an impact with them and do it in a private setting, I'm more than open to it. Just send me a message and I'm happy to jump on a call and discuss. I've already got one locked in, which is probably the best opportunity I could have asked for initially with that, which I'm so thankful for and I'm very keen for. And hopefully I'll start talking about that a little bit more publicly in the podcast specifically, probably not short form content, but definitely the podcast. Yeah, that would be another thing. But that sums it up. Where am I headed? Training model. What is the lowest hanging fruit for me or what is the most important thing for me is going to be the one-on-one mentoring, the group mentoring, and then my courses. That's really going to be the bread and butter of what I want to build. I will be doing some online coaching. Got a small book of clients, and I'll probably build that up to probably 10 clients. So if you are looking for a coach or want to do a stint with me, just reach out. I've got some space, but that's probably not going to be something that I'm publicly talking about too much. Probably just more so if somebody in the DMs starts asking questions. But yeah, that's where I'm headed. Training model to the moon. I think I might wrap it up there for this first episode. Again, it's probably just like a bit of a welcome back episode. Yeah, again, thank you for the support over the last 10 years of my career. Thank you for the support of Strength Culture. I will do an episode more specifically about closing the gym. I want to plan that one properly, though. I don't just want to riff on that. So that will come. But other than that, thank you. I'll see you next week. All the links will be down below for those the one-on-one mentoring, the applied mentorship, which is the group stuff, and the next movement mentorship intake. Please have a look. If you want to have any questions or want to reach out to have a chat with me, just send me a DM. I got fucking plenty of time on my hands right now, so plenty of time to chat, voice message, and jump on calls if you need to, want to have a chat. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next week.